we are looking at 2022 A-level biology first question. Okay. And here we are going to look at what is a reducing sugar and a non-reducing sugar. You might have already come across this. Is perhaps the one of the easiest questions. But I would like you all to focus on what's the theory behind it. So even if the questions get harder, maybe you can answer next time. So today we are looking at this question, and you might find the answer staring at you on your face right now itself, for the people who are aware of this question. For those who are not, let's go to what's a reducing sugar and a non-reducing sugar. So a reducing sugar is basically one which contain an aldohexose group, or anything that has an aldose group is basically called as a reducing sugar. Okay. If it contains a ketose group, it will be considered as a non-reducing sugar. Okay, so that's the basic. So if you can see the aldehyde group here, so we call this as an aldose. The ketone is present here, we call it as the ketone group. So it's a ketose group. Okay, so because of this reason, usually the sugars, okay, sugars like monosaccharides. So monosaccharides means we know that it also contains trioses, okay, tetroses, pentoses, hexoses, and so on. Okay. Even a 7-carbon containing molecule will also come under monosaccharide. So you can see that these are hexoses. These two are hexoses. So because of this reason, the aldose containing group, as it has an aldehyde, it will be reduced. Okay. And let's look at this exact reaction of how it happens. Okay. So if we have the aldose group, we use a test called Benedict reagent. Okay. Benedict reagent. And the Benedict reagent contains copper nitrate in its CO2 plus oxidation state. So once you add this to an aldose containing molecule, it will turn into a Cu plus containing oxidation state compound. In this case, we call as copper oxide. This copper oxide is a brick red precipitate, and therefore we can come to the conclusion from this reaction that the copper nitrate, okay, only reacts with aldose to form this big red precipitate. But for the non-reducing sugars, which has a ketone group, this is not the reality. So let's look at how this reducing sugar reaction happens. Okay. So as you can see here, okay, there's a blue color solution which is turning green precipitate, an orange precipitate then, and finally a brick red precipitate. Now this reaction is the one which is ideal for a reducing sugar test. So what happens in a reducing sugar test? Reducing sugar test is, if there is any amount of reducing sugar like monosaccharides or even disaccharides, but be careful here, monosaccharides and disaccharides, except sucrose, we call as basically the ones which have this aldose group. So if we have even a little bit of this in the solution, what will happen is it will form, even a trace amount of this sugar is there, it will form a green precipitate. If there is a little bit more, it will form an orange precipitate, and even more, it will form a brick red precipitate. But if we don't have any reducing sugar in the solution will remain blue color. So by doing a test for reducing sugar, this is a reducing sugar test, you can identify whether it contains a reducing sugar. But the reality is, on the other hand, if you want to identify if there is a non-reducing sugar, so the non-reducing sugars Since reducing sugars are monosaccharides and all the disaccharides except sucrose, the non-reducing sugars will always be sucrose plus most polysaccharides. Most polysaccharides. Okay. So in this case, we can see that if we add some drop of HCl maybe to the sucrose, it will turn into uh, glucose plus fructose solution. Why? Because this is a non-reducing sugar. If we took this non-reducing sugar and put directly in this reducing sugar test, it won't react. Okay, it won't react. So that's why if we need to find actually if there is a non-reducing sugar, we do this test. We take that sugar, we add HCl or an acidic solution, and then we turn into a solution which contains its monosaccharides, which contains its monosaccharides. Now, once it forms this glucose and fructose or any other monosaccharides or uh, any other reducing sugar even per se, what will happen is we can take that solution, neutralize it because this solution have some acids, so we can neutralize it using a base like sodium carbonate perhaps, and then we can go for the reducing sugar test. Okay, so then we can go for the reducing sugar test. So, so this is the reducing sugar test and the non-reducing sugar test. So the reducing sugar test is just simple. You put in the magnetic solution, heat it up, and whether it forms a precipitate, it will determine if it's a reducing sugar. But for the non-reducing sugar test, you have to first of all hydrolyze and then go for the reducing sugar test to confirm that it has a non-reducing sugar. So in this basis, okay, let's go and answer the question. We can see that which of the following is a non-reducing sugar? So we know that reducing sugars, to answer this question, we have to answer what are reducing sugars first. What are reducing sugars? So reducing sugars are monosaccharides. And what are monosaccharides? Monosaccharides can be a triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, and even heptose. So all of these will come under monosaccharides. So an example of the what comes under this, in this case, a pentose is ribose. Okay, so a pentose monosaccharide is a ribose. So will ribose be a non-reducing sugar or a reducing sugar? So obviously it will be a reducing sugar. So this is not our answer. Lactose. Lactose, what is it? It is a disaccharide. So this part is a little bit tricky because this, since it's not a monosaccharide, we will immediately try to answer this should be a non-reducing sugar, but that's not the case. Since lactose is also containing an aldose group, okay, it will fall under the category of what? It will fall under the category of reducing sugar. So as a result, this won't be our answer as well. I said that all the disaccharides except sucrose are reducing sugar. So that means maltose, which is a disaccharide as well, won't come as the answer. Galactose and sucrose. Sucrose and galactose. Okay. Galactose, what is galactose? Galactose, we know that it's a hexose. It's a aldohexose. So since it's an aldohexose, it will come as a reducing sugar, which leaves our final answer, sucrose, which is our correct answer. The sucrose is a disaccharide, which is an exception as it is containing only a ketose group or a ketone containing group. And therefore, we call it as a non-reducing sugar. If we subject sucrose to a non-reducing sugar test by adding dilute HCl, it will form its constituents like glucose and fructose, and then you can continue with the matrix region to form fabricate precipitate perhaps. Okay, so with that being said, I really wish you all to grab this answer and try it. Maybe try asking new question new things. How can we make these questions even more harder? What are some of the nuances that there is a chance that we might miss if there comes again another question? So think about it. Maybe that might turn out to be your next MCQ next year. So hopefully you enjoyed this question and answer session. Let's tune on to the next question maybe in a few days. So have a nice day. Goodbye.